I don't think we should tolerate lots of mistakes in business. I think it's good to learn from our mistakes when they happen, but we shouldn't be learning from mistakes every day. Every day we should be learning from the brilliant people we work with, think what they do and do that. Imagine if we had a course where we were able to be allowed to be like that.
Go full Ramsey.
Great to have you all here. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Guys, this is not good enough.
You call those intros again.
You're not very good at your job. Right, what are you going to do about it?
You're going to go bankrupt.
Take some pans in. Bang, bang, set fire, turn things over.
Bread round the head.
Exactly, that'd be fun. He said you've got 2 weeks to turn someone's performance around. So I want you to meet them every morning at 8:30. Use a performance management process. Make it uncomfortable for you. Make it uncomfortable for them. Focus on what you want. Make it really clear and help them succeed.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In every single episode, we spark something in work and life with my guest, as ever, Jonna Circum. Jonna, how are you?
I am me and I am well.
You are you and you're well. This is all we ask for.
Very well, very happy to be here. How are you, Christopher?
I'm really good. And I've been thinking about our podcast and we talk a lot about improving things.
Yeah.
We want to keep things sharp. We want to make things better. Yeah. We have talked as well about this podcast being something that could start good and get better.
Always.
We'd love that. So we're going to hone in on this topic of improvement.
Let's do it, Chris.
Let's do that.
How do we improve, Chris? How do we improve our pod?
How do we improve the pod? Maybe we can discuss that.
Comments below.
Get it in the comments, yeah.
In fact, you know, in our very first pod, they said, if you cut the waffle at the start, this would be a lot better.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have.
Maybe not. With that in mind, let's jump straight in. Are you improving?
I am getting both better and worse. Yeah. Yeah. What, professionally?
Yeah, let's talk professionally.
Professionally, I am getting better and worse.
Yeah.
I believe that life is a bit of a circle and that as some things improve, others get worse.
Okay. Yeah.
It would be nice if it was a virtuous spiral where everything is getting better. But unfortunately, we learn and unlearn.
Okay.
Remember and forget. Develop skills and lose them. And so I think all of us are in this cycle that we are getting better and worse.
Is it a little bit like the famous Homer Simpson quote, that famous philosopher?
How famous is it?
Every time I learn something new, it pushes some old stuff out of my brain.
It could be like that.
Yeah.
But also, if we stay in one job doing one thing for a long time, what challenged us and stimulates us becomes routine and we get worse. So therefore, we should progress. But in progressing, we move to something we're not as good at as the thing we're leaving. And therefore, we're getting new challenges. So even when we get promoted or we take a new role, we start a new project, probably we are going to do it worse than the brilliant job we were doing at the thing we just left.
Right.
Yeah.
And we normally get promoted to a point where we've not necessarily proven ourselves at the level. We've just done a good job at the level below.
Exactly.
So we're bound to make mistakes.
Got to turn up my in-ears.
Turn up those in-ears.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah, so better and worse. And I thought it might be interesting to think through how organizations improve. I know this whole episode we think to spark that. We are not the first people to think about sparking that. But there's a bit of a timeline on organizational processes spanning more than 100 years. Obviously, during the Industrial Revolution, lots of things were turned into things that would be manufactured. A lot of those things were manufactured by people working machines or people on an industrialized scale. And that's why it's called the Industrial Revolution, because we industrialize everything. After that, moving into the 20th century, we start in the 1900s with multiple paradigm shifts over the decades. So, for example, in 1900, 1915, we had a scientific approach to improvement in business. Essentially, that there's a best way of doing everything, and we should scientifically find the best way of doing it.
And do that.
And just everyone has to do that.
Yeah.
So that was the first sort of area of attempt to define a paradigm for how businesses and organizations should improve. And then after that, during the next phase, First World War through to the 50s, moved on to a more statistical control process where data and analysis was driving how we improve businesses. Pioneers like Schuhart and Deming were pioneering that, thinking about how to use information and statistics and data to improve how businesses work. So it's a scientific paradigm, Taylor, then into this statistical paradigm. And this effectively culminated in the very famous Toyota production system. Japan was the country that was pioneering these things in the 50s into the 60s. Total quality management, this type of movement. Let's define the fastest, cheapest and highest quality way to do everything, and then build all of our cars, computer systems like that. So that Toyota production system was revolutionary in the way that it approached quality as the goal, and then speed and cost effectiveness as the methods that we had to take account of. And this then brought us into the sort of 70s, where America starts to develop its own methodologies like that. And the most famous one, there's many versions of it, but lean manufacturing environment, how to do everything fast and efficiently and well. And then it swung back to Japanese technology companies in the 80s, Kaizen, and looking at how to do that kind of minimalistic approach to making things brilliant. So there's kind of these big waves of process, you know. And I remember when I first started my career, people would ask me, like, have you done your Lean Six Sigma? Are you a black belt? There were these qualifications and things that you could do to specialize in and understand and utilize skills and strategies and methodologies to improve organizations. And then into the 90s, this was then looking at the rise of performance management. So it wasn't just about manufacturing and maybe modern management approaches, but it was performance management, indicating also in particular people, isn't it? That the things that organizations were doing more and more, it depended on people rather than machines and or manufacturing technology. And, you know, the balanced scorecard approach of measuring everything and looking at the scorecard and seeing how it's going and seeing which numbers we should try to affect. The rise of performance management, looking at employees in the same way, looking at everyone doing their numbers, seeing where they can improve. And then that sort of methodology's taken us into the 21st century, looking at how to do things really, really well, but in things that are passions of yours, Agile, Scrum, looking at methodologies that exist in a kind of fast-changing world, recognizing that even as we build it now, it'll be different tomorrow. And I think that reflects also the big changes in product life cycles. If you think 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, essentially you're manufacturing cars, aeroplanes, computers that might sit on your desk for 5 years. Into the 2020s, we're so much more involved in software development, apps, agility, platforms, and therefore we can't even imagine what's coming next year. We have to build whilst adapting. And I think that's how organizations and companies have methodologicalized trying to make things better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that whole history of trying to make things better, do you think we've made things better?
Do I think we've made things better? I tell you what, I think we make better things.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, look at the cars, look at the computers, look at the microphones. We make them much, much better and possibly a lot faster. I don't know if we make them cheaper, because I think companies also want to keep high prices. But I mean, if you look at the cost of manufacturing them, the cost is incredibly low. The iPhone is the classic example, isn't it? Sell it for 1,000, actually costs less than 100 to make. So if you compare that to a Ford car in the 1950s, the manufacturing costs would have been much higher. So yeah, I guess we're doing well.
Yeah, and actually, if you think about a car or the phone as well, latest iPhone, latest Samsung phone, they haven't really changed too much over the last.
Don't tell Samsung, our big client.
I think they'd admit that. I think they even did an ad where the home button was removed. There was a whole ad campaign around that being
the main
a significant shift in the phone market, and probably the biggest in the last 10 years. Maybe because we've improved that product so much, the phone, over 20, 30 years, that
I'm just having a bit of a panic attack, because I buy a new iPhone every year. And what I'm realizing is now you come to mention it, they're not really, I can't really tell the difference between this year's and last year's.
New software, but broadly, we've honed that product. I think is kind of the point you're making. Cars, planes.
Yeah.
We've honed so many of those things to the point where until the next big thing arrives, there's not a lot we can do
Yeah.
with that device.
Well, I mean, we work with Airbus, don't we? And if you
Yeah.
think about the A320 plane, it's a phenomenal plane.
Yeah.
It's incredibly well manufactured. It is incredibly efficient. It's incredibly profitable in terms of the cabin configuration, as they can get all the client needs into that cabin. And then they started thinking, actually, do you know what? This actually can fly quite far as well. We can make ones that can go further. But essentially, I'm going to quickly Google now how long the A320 has been there. A320 launch date. When do you think the A320 first flew?
I'm guessing 2005.
Should we do higher or lower?
Yeah, go on.
Bit lower.
Bit earlier.
Earlier.
2002.
Earlier.
98.
Earlier.
1990.
Earlier.
1980.
84.
84.
First flight of the A320.
Wow.
2024.
Yeah.
1984. 40 years.
This is the point. It feels so modern.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Modern.
Yeah.
So they kept
Hard
innovating
to improve
it,
on. Yeah.
but the original design, that's how long it's been going. And I mean, iPhones, what you're saying is the same as the phones, computers. I mean, look at our lovely laptops.
Yeah. MacBook, an incredible thing.
Yeah.
Hasn't really changed. Yes, there's technology changes, but broadly, it looks quite similar to the
Yeah, I was
the laptop of
I
10 years
recently
ago.
had to buy my first MacBook Air in ages because my travel laptop, a small travel tip we didn't cover in the travels section actually, which is have a travel laptop at home and a work laptop, so you don't have to keep taking your laptop back home. But my travel laptop was the really thin MacBook, and they don't make it anymore. And I decided to buy a MacBook Air for my travel laptop, and basically the old MacBook was so thin it was like a piece of paper, and they haven't improved that. They haven't repeated it. They've just said, actually, let's not bother with that really, really good thing. But there's no better version.
Yeah, and maybe at that point the improvements become incremental gains. They become little things.
Yeah,
which is a whole area of improvement in and of itself.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the Sky philosophy from 20 years ago, marginal gains, making small incremental improvements. But all these philosophies rely on that. I think very few of the methodologies rely on big jumps. I think most of them are trying to engineer success and do that through refinements. So that's one area. I guess we work a lot in the human space.
Yeah.
Should we talk a bit about individuals?
Yeah.
Are you improving?
We can improve people as well, and we can improve as people.
Can we improve people, or do people improve?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Chris.
I think we can, of course, improve people. That's the business we're in, isn't it?
Ooh.
That people can improve, and
do we improve them though, or do we set the foundation for them to improve?
I think that is a better description. But I think broadly that means
layman's terms we help improve people.
Layman's terms.
Layperson's
terms. We
help improve people.
Yeah, we help improve people. And I think that's because we intrinsically we want to improve. We did a whole episode on growth and the value of that and why that's essential and not just a nice thing to have. And improvement is similar, I think, in that. I mean, how often have you been in a meeting where we say, actually, I think we should make that a little bit worse?
Let's start saying it.
The results are good, but I think we could do worse next year.
Isn't MVP, minimum viable product, a way of saying, let's make this worse?
That's true. It's a kind of way of making it worse, isn't it? But it's simplifying it. It's reducing
reducing the scope.
Yeah.
Let's do MVP on that, guys. Let's do MVP on that, guys.
Can we circle back to that next week?
Can we circle back to an MVP? I know we got all the whistles and bells, but I want MVP first, gentlemen. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good job we're not in New York as well and trying to run a business there, else the views would be going.
I wish I was in Houston. I'd like to be doing it the Texas way.
Bit of Tex-Mex on the pod, that'd be lovely.
Shout out to Joel. Good Tex-Mex.
And you're working with hundreds of teams. You work with hundreds of leaders, probably thousands of leaders. What's the difference for you between a team that's improving and a team that's not?
Well, there's two very different schools of attempting this. One is through leadership development, and the other is through team-based development.
Okay, explain those.
So you could work with leaders and try and help them to improve, and therefore help them to improve how they run their teams, or you could work with leaders and teams and help that unit improve. And I think that the former lends itself to courses and programs, and the latter lends itself to active engagement with the whole team through a process.
Okay.
And it was almost like a epiphany for me as a leadership consultant to realize someone comes on a course, they've then got to go back and do all the integration without any help. And sometimes their team didn't even really notice that they've been on the course. So
No buy-in.
The low cost solution is to get leaders to come together. It can be high value as well.
Yeah.
But possibly the high cost, high value solution is to go and work with leaders and teams, but you can get a really big outcome from doing that.
Yeah.
And the more I get to do the second one, the more I love it, because it's completely real. In the leadership development, you're working theoretically and on skills. When you go and work with the team on their results, as a performance consultant or running an improvement process or running a goals-based process, I just love that. Love it.
Yeah. That's a thrill.
Yeah. So those two different things, like you can work with the leader or you can work with the leader and the team as a whole.
As a whole. And that's, two different approaches to addressing that team that's not improving.
Yeah.
Both good approaches.
Both very good approaches. The great thing about the leadership training is you don't have to work with a team. so step away from that environment. Let's not think about that.
Take the leaders away.
Let's just start with you. You're
Put you in a room.
The leader is the lever. Let's work with that and see if we can get that. If we can work with you to grow and change. And actually, honestly, also there's a lot of the changes are things that are serious. I was working with a leader yesterday in a very, very well-known brand, and they're one of the top executive leaders there. And they move very quickly from leading something to negative emotions, feeling annoyed, feeling bad, very quickly into frustration. And that can turn into then unconstructive behaviors, moaning, complaining. We all have that possibility, don't we? And so working with that leader behind closed doors, privately, away from their team, is also really, really interesting about how you can get them to improve. But I found that people don't want to be told to improve. They want to be allowed to, shown how to, given the opportunity to work out how to improve. But sometimes you also need to tell them, improve.
Just need telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a provocative challenge, isn't it? I want this done better. You need to work out how to make it happen, guys.
Yeah.
And I like doing that as a leader as well.
Yeah. And it is needed. It is needed sometimes. And I think maybe because of what you identified with the we improve one thing and then another thing drops, we learn one thing and we forget something else. That's why we've always got to be saying, let's improve it.
Yeah. And
because
very
otherwise those things drop.
Very occasionally you can go as far as the Gordon Ramsay method.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, but he's at the far end of the spectrum of how to get an improvement. You know, those kitchen nightmares shows. But I was listening to him on one of the pods, and I've occasionally had to channel him at home and at work.
Really?
Yeah.
In the kitchen at home?
No. I mean, if you've got a family, sometimes things are just not good enough. But he, like actually a lot of sports performance leaders, he's trying to get the highest level of performance. And the question is, what do you do if you're not getting the reaction? What happens if you say, this needs to improve? I'd like to see this improve. What if they tell you, I'm going to improve this? What if they keep mentioning that they're going to do it? What if they know that it needs to improve but don't really pay attention to it? What if they're ignoring the fact that they know that you know that they know that you know that we all know this isn't good enough, and just basically want to do the human thing, which is just get on with our lives and just not deal with stuff we're not good at. And occasionally you need to what do you set fire to the kitchen, swear, throw things around, bang pans,
call someone an idiot sandwich.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to get a reaction, to get the journey started. And in change leadership, they call this the burning bridge to some extent. Like, you could set it up economically without any kind of shouting. Guys, our company's going to go bankrupt if we don't sort this out. Guys, our technology is not, we're going to fall behind a competitor and we're going to lose market share. If we don't do X, we're not going to get to where we need to go. You can set up the burning bridge, but you also can do that on a emotional level and say, this has to change. It has to change now. You. You can do that.
You could dial up the emotion. Yeah. If you need to. Yeah.
Sports managers
are doing that all the time.
Yeah, go and watch
the dressing room.
The dressing room.
They're in there.
Documentary.
It's completely gone from my mind as well.
All or Nothing.
All or Nothing.
Go and watch the All or Nothing, and look at the managers losing there.
Yeah, they're doing that.
I wouldn't do that. I can't. I think that's part of the problem in sports management. It's old school. But
yeah, it's a bit old school. But like you're saying, what happens when you don't get a reaction from the nice approach, the empathetic approach, the gentle approach.
Yeah. Can we quickly talk about Man United?
Yeah, we can.
This is a massive case study on this, which is, despite everyone there wanting them to succeed, they just can't get it together. And in my opinion, a man in the modern milieu with a manager who is really tough on everybody, it doesn't work. Because let's say in previous seasons, Jadon Sancho has been sent to train by himself in a field and is humiliated. And Cristiano Ronaldo is ignored and derided and thrown out. The thing is that they're friends with Marcus Rashford. How do you think he feels? He's in training every day. He goes home, plays his PlayStation, and with Jadon Sancho and Ten Hag. Well, that methodology is so old school. It's not. It's not the way to get elite performance. I can see it from a Ramsey's perspective in terms of getting a reaction, but not as an ongoing management style. For me, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, but interestingly though, that is Ramsey's style.
He's known for that.
He is known for that. He's presumably has some mellower moments, but uses it as a style to
I'm thinking actually it'd be brilliant from a learning and development point of view if we had a course. So he goes into the kitchen, he's there for a couple of days and then leaves.
Yeah.
So he's got not very long to get a reaction.
No.
But imagine if we had a course where we were able to be allowed to be like that when we got there.
Yeah.
Hi guys,
full Ramsey.
Great to have you all here. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Guys, this is not good enough.
No. You call those intros again.
Yeah, this is not good. These intros are poor. Your company is just failing. Yeah. You're not very good at your job. Right, what are you going to do about it?
You go to the client with that intro, you're going to go bankrupt.
Take some pans in. Bang, bang, set fire, turn things over.
Bread round the head.
Exactly, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Would you think we'd get a reaction?
Yeah, I think we should televise it. I think we should put it on YouTube.
Chris Lissaman's Learning and Development Nightmares.
Yeah. We've talked about some of the approaches to improvement, different models. I know you've also talked before about why do we always learn from mistakes and talk about learning from mistakes? Is there an alternative to actually prior learning before you make the mistake?
Prior learning, the actual Latin term is a priori learning, which is exactly what universities, schools, training courses, that's what they're all there for. Before we do something, should we learn how to do it?
Yeah.
And then when we go and do it, we should succeed.
Yeah.
Read a book, read the internet, look at YouTube. When I'm fixing my bike, before I became wise, I didn't used to look at the manual and I didn't used to look on YouTube. I used to think, do you know what? I will get my screwdriver out and I'll fix that. And then I would do it wrong and break it. And then I'd go to the bike shop and say, I'm really sorry I've broken this. How much is it going to cost to get this fixed? And they would say, it's going to cost you £100. And I'd say, no, please.
Do that myself.
Why did I try to tighten that screw by myself? And they'd say things like, did you use a torque meter for this? No, I didn't use a torque meter. I just tightened it up.
Why did you do that?
That's why the steel bolt that you screwed into the carbon fibre has completely ruined your bike. Yeah. So a priori learning is where we learn ahead of time. And it's why we prize things like MBAs and why we prize degrees, why we prize learning and development.
Driving lessons?
Driving.
That'll be interesting if we just learnt by mistakes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but yet for some reason we feel that I feel it's a learning development specific problem. We say, we should be able to learn from mistakes. But the really top people don't make that many. The reason why is because they're switched on, they're thinking, and they dig into what they need to do to succeed. They map out a path, they learn the skills, and they go succeed. So I don't think we should tolerate lots of mistakes in business. I don't think we should have to learn a lot from our mistakes frequently. I think it's good to learn from our mistakes when they happen, but we shouldn't be learning from mistakes every day. Every day we should be learning from the brilliant people we work with, think what they do and do that. Think we're about to set off on something, go and research it, work out how to do it well, go and do that. And sometimes we will make mistakes and we should learn from those as well.
Maybe it's coming back to football a little bit like the Maldini style defender.
What's the Maldini style defender?
If we judge them on their tackling rate, the number of tackles they do, will look like a poor defender. but actually it's because they're always in the right place.
Yeah.
Maldini, incredible defender, always in the right place, could just intercept the ball, didn't have to tackle.
Exactly.
Maybe it doesn't even come into the striker because he's man-marking him so well.
Exactly.
Sign of an incredible defender.
Exactly. Rio Ferdinand,
Exactly.
peak years, 2 tackles per game.
Yeah, probably.
Didn't need to make them.
Yeah.
His presence
Not making mistakes.
made the ball go away.
He's learned how to be in the right place to not make those mistakes and have to make a tackle.
Yeah.
Because he was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uncomfortably this weekend, my favourite football team's left back got sent off, immediate red card, and gave away a penalty in the 4th minute of the game for a from behind tackle. That is the example of the kind of learning we don't want to do.
Yeah, are you happy for him to learn from his mistake?
Not really.
No, it would have been better if he hadn't done it.
Especially he's probably one of the highest paid people in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know why he did that, Chris.
Why did he do that?
Because he wanted to put everything into getting a top performance. Why'd you make a tackle from behind, Chris?
You don't want the striker to shoot.
Not even that.
Not even that?
There's a reason, isn't there? Tackle from where?
Behind, wrong position.
Yeah. So he made one mistake.
And
then
compounded
it with a second mistake, and that is extremely common. For example, if you were to get a speeding fine, get a ticket and think, do you know what? I'm going to try and get someone else to take this for me. When you then look at what that means, not only have you speeded, you're now going to break the law in a serious way, deceiving the police. That has a 2-year prison sentence attached to it. Yeah?
Yeah.
So whatever mistakes you might have made in driving, don't compound that by lying to the police about who's driving and get a 2-year prison sentence hanging over you. That's not good, is it?
No.
So you see,
that's a small margin, but a massively significant
But
punishment.
these are the things when we make mistakes, if we're not humble, if we don't learn from them, we compound them. Yeah. And this is a real problem.
Right. It can be key to our improvement is when we do make that mistake, don't compound it.
I think that would be, that is really important, yeah. And also, what I see happen quite frequently is people say they're going to solve the problem and then not solve it. For example, I'm obsessive about tidiness in the office, about putting things away. Yeah. That actually comes from my early career where I worked in an office environment that had a clean desk policy. Everything had to be put away because guess what? If it's not put away, it gets lost. If it's not put away, it gets broken. If it is broken, you've got to replace it. Well, but we don't need to replace it today. Yes, we do, because when someone needs that, when they come to it, if it's broken, then they've got a problem. If you don't fix when the toilet flush breaks, or if you don't replace the drinks in the fridge when they're used up, guess what? When the next person comes to get a drink, it's not there. So it's not just a value. I think it's how organizations should work. They should set a high standard and try to hold everyone to it. Keep going on the small things, because if you don't tidy up after your meeting and leave the meeting room a mess, then that value of not caring goes into proposal writing or client meeting or one-to-ones. Actually, we can kind of ignore this process. We don't have to do the right thing today. Let's not worry about it. And then essentially the whole thing turns to chaos.
So maybe part of our improvement is just keeping a level to a certain extent. Just keeping a standard, keeping a value set.
Better never stops, Chris.
Better never stops.
Other catchphrases available. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's the same as health and fitness. People think I want to get fit. If they were to think I want to stay fit, that's a completely different job. Yeah. If people think I want to be successful, well, for how long? Do you want to achieve success or do you want to sustain success? I mean, being successful is easy. Sustaining success is really hard. Elon Musk's done quite a good job, though, hasn't he? Whatever you think of the man. Not only has he become successful, he's managed to sustain it across all kind of areas. I don't really like Elon Musk all that much.
Does anyone?
But if you look at what he's achieved, he's done really, really well.
Yeah, can't argue with that. What are your go-to tactics for seeing improvement in other people?
Ooh, I think it depends where they're at, Chris.
Okay.
U-turn performance. I was trained how to do this by one of my old bosses, Seb. He said, you've got 2 weeks to turn someone's performance around. If you can't start a turnaround in 2 weeks, and I had someone to work for me that was not performing, and he said, John, what I want you to do is I want you to meet them every morning at 8:30, because that's painful for you, and that's painful for them. And I want you to go through not just what they've got to do, but the attitude you want them to do it with and the speed every morning for 2 weeks. And John, he said, if you don't sort this out, I will fire them. So it's on you. You're their manager. This is your job. Sort it out. Within 2 weeks, I want to have rapidly started the journey. So I think if there's a U-turn performance needed, use a performance management process. It might not be 2 weeks, it might be 2 months, but make it uncomfortable for you, make it uncomfortable for them, focus on what you want, make it really clear, and help them succeed. Yeah. I think that's at the lower end.
That's at the lower end.
At the top end, working with top performers, I think you've got to be really, really careful.
Right.
And the reason for that is that someone who's a high performer, they have a set of strategies and ecosystems that are in place. And I observed this when I watched Andy Murray take on the tennis coach, Ivan Lendl. He got a new coach and they interviewed Ivan Lendl and said, what are you going to do with Andy Murray's game? And he said, well, Andy Murray's tennis is already extremely, really good. So the first thing I mustn't do is change anything. I'm not going to change anything. Yeah.
It's a really interesting approach.
So his forehand is really good. His backhand is really good. His movement is really good. His fitness is really good.
Let's keep those things.
He's already a really, really, really good tennis player.
Yeah.
He's at the time, one of the top 3 or 4 in the world, top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to do with the top performers, I'm going to try not to change anything. I'm not going to say, this is what you should be doing, this is how you should go about it. The first thing I'm going to do with the top performer is be very, very careful.
Right.
And because they've already got a system that's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
And and you've got to ask yourself the question, can I actually help them? Is there anything I can do here? So when I'm working with people that need a U-turn performance, I'm going in on one strategy. There's all the training and development, everything else in the middle. But if you're working with a really top performer, you've got to think about it in a completely different way. And I think for me, that's often the start also of leadership trainings that I run. Look, you're already a good leader because you've already been honoured by your company with a position of leadership. You've had a career that's got you here. They wouldn't have put you here on this program or got you here if you hadn't been successful already. And I don't really know you. And more than that, I haven't worked in your company. I don't do your job. I have none of your specific skills. So you're already doing better than I would do if I was in that job. And therefore, this is not about me showing you how to get better. What I want to do is run a program or help you with a process where you can work out how to get better. And then let's set up a series of experiments and try all that stuff. And if we try that, let's make small adaptations, or let's make strategy changes, but let's do it in a kind of controllable way where we don't mess everything up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I think you work with top performers. And I like the Ivan Lendl method.
It's a humble approach.
He won Wimbledon, didn't he, when he had Ivan Lendl?
Yeah,
he won the US Open.
Yeah.
Won Wimbledon. He achieved his peak with that kind of coaching.
And yet there's other coaches, maybe football coaches, I think Thierry Henry's talked about how his ethos, his philosophy of coaching is to improve his players. Yeah. And not all of the coaches talk about that. Some of them talk about buying players and replacing the players and getting a new squad in. But some prioritize this, my job is to improve the players. Do you think that's an approach that every manager should take? Or is that a Thierry Henry style, very people person, very improvement focused?
It depends how good you are at hiring. So I was chatting about this with Karen, our non-exec director, yesterday. If you get the hiring right, if you build the right team, you probably don't have a lot of improving to do. It will improve itself. If your hiring's off by 15, 20%, maybe cultural fit, maybe not exactly the right skill set, then there's a lot of improvement work to do. And okay, if that's maybe one person, what if that's lots of people? Or what if you've got a very new team, for example?
Yeah. That have all got to improve
to meet
a standard. Yeah.
Yeah, you can set yourself
a lot of
bigger
work
challenge.
Time.
So I think what Thierry Henry is talking about is not just, he's not talking about how we win the next match. He's talking about how we win the championship in a couple of years' time. That's how you can do it, by improving players. And obviously everyone can improve to a certain extent, but there becomes a level, doesn't there, where you can't really make that many more improvements.
Yeah, there's a limit.
A frustration for myself. I feel I've reached a level of skill set in my career where the next steps up are I need to make really big jumps to actually be any better. Hard.
That's really difficult.
What about you? Are you going to improve?
I am definitely going to improve, and I'm interested in this idea of how much time should you invest as a manager, as a leader, in trying to improve people versus maybe improving myself or strategizing or managing. Yeah. It's something I'm interested in.
That's a really good question, isn't it? Whether you should make the efforts to improve yourself or make the efforts to improve your team. I do think your team will I think managers I've worked for that helped me improve, believed in me, showed me that I can be bigger. That's made me really happy. I'm now thinking, did it work for them? And possibly it didn't, because I then got promoted and did a different job.
Yeah.
But there's a fulfillment, isn't there, to helping people improve?
Yeah.
There's also on a performance level, like those teams that we work with. If you can get a team to improve collectively, I think that's more valuable than working with individuals. I think setting out those team goals and saying, how are we going to do this, is extremely valuable. And getting the team to work on how to improve is extremely valuable. If you go down onto the individual level and say, well, in order for our team to improve, you need to improve, you need to improve, you need to improve, that works, but is harder to do. So I would, focus on the outcomes and ask the team to rise up to achieve it. I think the team-based development is good.
Yeah, and in doing so, you'll probably gain a lot of thoughts and helpful insights about how you can improve as part of that team and as a leader of that team as well.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I'm thinking about it now. I've got, as my dad used to tell me, son, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement.
It's a big quote.
It's a good quote.
Put that on a t-shirt.
No, maybe that explains a lot. I'll talk to my therapist about
that. And then we've talked about maybe, the lower end, the high performers, different approaches. What about over time when we want to see sort of like the 2-week improvement? What about the over a year, over 2 years kind of improvement?
Yeah, maybe separate out the collective and the individual. I think if you're in the emerging talent, early careers, we'll see rapid multi-year changes. I think if you get into the mid senior leaders, we're not expecting to see rapid multi-year changes, but we want to see some kind of more sustained growth. For example, ability to use different strategies. So if we sort of characterized it by decades somehow, 20s, we want to see lots and lots of progression, and we expect that to also be happening in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. If you're in senior levels or if you've got 25 years experience, my opinion is that you may be making multi-year changes, but it's actually by that stage, it's more about assimilating things and taking on more and bigger responsibilities. And so it could be that you improve every year, but let's also think about the career phases and what the priority is in life. In early career phases, it seems to be more of a priority to make rapid progress. But then some people don't. Some people chill in their 20s. I actually worked with one really high performer, one of our clients, and his opening gambit to me was, I can't do his Irish accent, but his opening gambit to me was, it took me until I was 35 to realise I wasn't really trying at work, and now I'm making up for it. I'm now working as hard now. I'm really banking on things because basically I messed around for 10 or 15 years. And he did. He's doing really, really well.
Yeah, so maybe it goes against the grain in that.
Yeah,
most people maybe learning rapidly at that point, but other people leave that till later.
Maybe Maybe you got to wait for your moment, Chris.
Yeah. If you're enjoying this episode, give it a like. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We love to see all the reviews, all the comments. We'll reply. We love that. So thank you.
Subscribe.
You should by now know whether you like the podcast. So subscribe. How much of your time, John, as a CEO is thinking about your own improvement? You've talked about those big jumps that you might need to make. You work in L&D, so improvement is important. But how much of it dominates your headspace?
I like to set new challenges that require me to be better. And that, I'd recommend that for everyone. Set bigger goals. Set yourself. You run marketing, so it's easy to think about how you're going to be better in outputs, right? We did well this season, going to double that next season. Or we did well this season, we're going to achieve those results with half the budget. Or we've got X, we're going to do Y. I believe in setting those kind of areas. Or let's say we've been really successful in events. Now we're going to be successful in email. Let's work out how to do it and let's do it really well. So I do think, for me, I like to set those kind of challenges for myself. And in the circle of life where things are also getting worse as well as getting better, there's standards to raise and so on. I do believe that from the work that I've done, that one of the roles of very senior leaders is, whilst seemingly to encourage everybody to be never happy with anything.
It's a difficult place to be, isn't it?
Whilst celebrating everybody to never be happy with hardly anything. And I'm not like that as a person, but I think that's part of the role. You know, there's always going to be dimensions. If we've done really, really well, did we do it on the right cost? Did we do it on the right time scale? Were we efficient? If we done really, really well, is it because we copied what we did last year and now we're just doing it again this year? Therefore, that's now business as usual. You don't get any credits for that, really. What's the thing that you're going to do to move the game on? There's always there's strands of improvement, and maybe the senior level leadership is balancing all that out, the impatience and frustration and or demand for more with the encouragement and care and acceptance and congratulations of what's done. And yeah, I think that's part of the role. And I think perhaps it's chicken and egg. Do people who end up at the top of organizations, is the reason why lots of them are like that because that's what the job role requires? Or is it that people are like that often end up at the top of organizations? It's probably both. And what that means actually is if you want to get ahead in your career and get right to the very top, you need to be able to, like an artist, be constantly dissatisfied with the status quo and inspirationally try to find a way to get people to be better. Why is Gordon Ramsay this incredibly famous chef? Is he famous because he's difficult, or is he successful because he's demanding? You know, he's so demanding that he's been demanding and got all the way to the top. And I guess I see that pattern in a lot of areas. It doesn't mean you don't have to be nice, but I believe that people who are generally satisfied with the job that's been done and go home going, yeah, okay, I'm really happy with that. Nothing to improve there. I don't think those people are going to progress as fast as those people who go home saying, we did a great job, but I just believe it can be better. How can we make it better? And that kind of thirst, it's an almost artistic thirst for perfection or betterness, an inner drive to just take it to the next level. I believe that is, what turns into success at work and turns into profit for companies and turns into new products or new services or new campaigns or better ad ideas or better training programs or better ways of managing and, so on.
I've heard as well that the emotion, aggression of kitchens and Gordon Ramsay style leadership is never personal. It seems personal when you watch it on TV and you think they've got some kind of vendetta against the person and or they hate them or they think they should be fired or whatever. But it's actually out of care for that person that this is how you make your career. This is how you do the job. A love of food, a love of excellence, a love of client delight, customer delight. Yeah. That's where it comes from rather than any kind of personal attack.
Things can end up being personal, and I've certainly done that, and it doesn't work. So do not make things personal at work. However, if you're delivering difficult feedback, it is to a person, and therefore there's a good chance they can take it personally.
Yeah.
And I have this every single day, Chris. So I've got a brilliant team of people here, and every day I have to give them feedback. Yesterday, senior leader. Today, a more junior team member. Every day I will be giving feedback and trying to help people improve, and they can take it extremely personally, especially if there's a power difference. So people skills and can you do it in a good way? If you get a negative reaction, then you're probably not being successful. So how do you do it in a way that gets a positive reaction? Some people are quite resistant to accepting the idea that they can improve, and you will see all kinds of strategies of defensiveness, from being prickly or being difficult to talk to, or some people cry if they feel. If you look into why, it's because it's an escape mechanism. They don't have to deal with it. Some people will use data rational and say, you're saying I should have done better on these results, but look at my results. I was the best performing person in our team, or I did project X, which you're saying could have been done better, but I've done the analysis. It was still very profitable. Whatever. There's many ways to defend and kind of stave off, or actually, do you not being busy and saying, actually, I can't have that meeting. Let's have it in a month's time. Or there's lots of ways to get out of conversations about performance improvement or feedback. But it's a really valuable thing, isn't it, to say to someone, how can I get better? I say it to my kids. I say it to my wife. I say it to my team. How can I improve? And if someone does need to improve, finding the way to share that with them in a way that they can accept and buy into is absolutely critical to being able to make your organization better. And if you give up on that, your organization will only ever get worse and you're screwed.
I think it's a really valuable thing to ask that question of how can I get better, especially from you as a CEO. I think that helps me ask that question to my team, to others around me.
I've stopped asking it as much as I used to though.
Yeah.
Should I ask it a bit more, Chris?
I think you could ask it more again. Yeah.
Oh no.
I think it's
please not that.
It's funny because people laugh. I've seen you ask that question. How can I improve? You'll ask an intern. First day.
I can take it from them.
Yeah, yeah. And you'll say, "How can I improve?" And I think people laugh because it seems like it's flipped.
I can't be bothered, Chris. I just
they
don't
should be
want to
asking
go there.
you.
No, I know that's fun, but when I actually mean it, that's really hard. Do you really want to know how to get better?
Sometimes.
Not
all the time. Sometimes, you're having a
should I double down? Should I double down and try and ask it more?
Yeah, you can ask it more.
Yeah, we did a client survey recently. Guess what they said we should improve at?
Doing client surveys?
No, they said we're really good.
This is good, isn't it?
Yeah, that doesn't help me, does it?
What about the improvement points?
Yeah, no, I can take that. I will, Chris, I'll double down on that and I actually have just built a brand new 360-degree feedback tool with Ross. So maybe I should start by doing a 360 and getting everyone's ideas about how I can improve.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
I'd like to use that as well.
I'll fill it out and I'll send it and you can fill it out as well.
There we go. Is there anything we shouldn't improve?
Yes.
What kind of things are in your mind as the things we should steer clear of?
Chris, I'm going to bring this to you as a paradox, but we shouldn't try and improve people.
Okay.
Seems
problematic in the business we're in, but I'm going to go with it.
We've got to honour people.
Okay.
We've got to honour them for who they are. If they believe that you think that they should always be better, they will feel that they can't completely follow you. So I don't think other people should try to make me better. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know you can be better. I don't want to place the expectation that you should be better on you. I want you to live in that environment where people that are around you think you should be different from who you are. Yeah.
And here, do we need to differentiate between you being different as opposed to your behaviors, your input, your results being different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good distinction, Chris. Your results could be better, but you couldn't be better.
Thanks for being honest.
No, but I'm saying that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyone's results can be better.
Yeah.
But you as a person don't need to be better. You're made the way you are. Let's accept you like that. Let's work together on the results. But it's more in general that the feeling that people are projecting onto you that you should be better all the time does not help you achieve high performance. If it comes from within, wanting to work on better results, then great. If it comes from other significant people that you're not good enough, then it erodes confidence and it erodes the desire to be better. And I think we get a good balance here at IW of the acceptance of people, yet focusing on the performance where it's needed. There is occasional bad apples, that you get occasional bad actor, bad character, then you won't change that person. You've got to change that person. Yeah?
I think I agree.
Good. Just don't let it be you.
Yeah, just don't let it be me. Don't want to be that bad apple. Won't go rotten. What do we do if our own kind of self-talk is that you should be better voice? Is there any tips, any advice for if we're struggling?
Is this a personal question or is this
I think I do struggle with this. Yeah. I think I do. Yeah, I think I'm my worst critic.
Are you?
In terms of whether I could be doing better, and I'll probably
that's quite exploitable, to be honest.
I think it'll either come in the form of projecting onto others. They think I should be doing better, or sometimes it's just me. Like I'm just very aware of where I could be doing better, where those levers are that could be improved.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. I think we all do that. I guess, but from a personal point of view, how sustainable is it if you carry that with you all the time? Coming back to the top performing leaders, that desire to be better is part of the makeup of a high performer. If they're doing it because of others' expectations of them, then that is sad because we shouldn't really be doing things for what others think we should be doing. We should work out for ourselves what good looks like and what the standards we can achieve are, and then go and, in Gordon Ramsay's terms, execute it. And maybe that's there's obviously lots of deep psychology about why we might feel that people are external critic, inner critic. I believe that the inner critic helps to some extent to foster improvement, but if it's too frequent, too loud, it's always there, then it'll be cool to work out how to get that to go away so you can focus on doing a great job.
Absolutely. Before we finish, John, tell us a little bit about why clients are coming to us to help their teams, leaders, organizations improve.
Well, people stuff should be easy, and it would be, apart from people. And that's why people come to do leadership development, coaching, soft skills. I mean, we run hundreds of soft skills workshops in a year. They're around things like giving feedback, performance management, courageous conversations, how to overcome conflict, how to connect, how to lead more deeply. These are existential, multi-millennia parts of the human existence. And because we work in organizations which has other people, the better we can be at those interactions, the more effective we can be, the easier and more fruitful our working life will be. So I think, considerable amount of time, money and effort is invested into this. And it's really a pleasure to do that. There is one question though, which is, like any product or service, does it actually work? And I think one of the unique things about Interactive Workshops approach is the people that we use to do that are genuinely whole, enlightened, brilliant human beings, often quite humble, real, people you can meet with on a level. They're not the stereotypical experienced consultant that is telling you exactly after all their years what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing better. But they will lead you into a space where you can discover for yourself how brilliant you can be. And that sort of democratic approach, I think, is a unique flavour of what we're doing here.
Agreed. So if you want to improve, or you want your teams to improve, or you want your leaders to improve, or you want your organisation to improve, get in touch. We'd love to chat.
We would love to chat.
Thank you, John, for joining me once again. If you've liked this episode, do give it a like, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss another episode.
Do not miss it. We will be here.
Thanks, John. See you next time.
It's over and out from me.